Welcome to Twitter for Therapists, Part 2, by the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. You can visit us online at www.aamft.org or find us on Twitter at the AAMFT. Be sure to watch Twitter for Therapists Part 1 to learn more about why a therapist might be interested in using Twitter, even if you don't want to use it yourself. In this video, we're going to briefly review the concepts of Twitter for Therapists Part 1, just real quick. And then we're going to go over the basic functions of Twitter for Therapists and give you a little information on how to use them. That will include creating your profile so that other people can see who you are, following people on Twitter so you can see what they have to say, tweeting, which is sharing your messages with others, and sending individual messages, whether they're messages everyone can see you sending or messages that are just private between you and someone else. In Twitter for Therapists Part 1, we talked a little bit about why therapists might be interested in Twitter, even if they don't want to use it. One of those reasons could be for networking. Twitter is a very powerful networking tool and will allow you to meet people online that you haven't met in person yet, or continue conversations with people that you have met in person but are no longer near. Twitter is also great for information sharing, whether you choose to use it for advocacy, to help establish yourself as an expert in the field, or just to get the word out on what you know and do. Twitter is all about creating conversation on a very large scale between large groups of people and yourself. In the last video, we talked a little bit about what that means and why it's important and fun. Twitter gives you the opportunity to share who you are and what you have to offer as a therapist. And in the last video, we also mentioned that Twitter can be fantastic for entertainment. Of course, as we brushed on before, you want to exercise caution legally and ethically, remembering that you're still bound by all the rules and regulations of a therapist, even when you're online. The first step in using Twitter is to create a login. Maybe you already have one, and you just don't know what to do with it. But if you don't, you're going to have to start at the login page. Simply go to www.twitter.com. That's Twitter. Once that loads, you'll see a page that looks something like this. Up in the very top right-hand corner, you'll see that it says to sign in. If you already have a Twitter name, then you can use your username and password to sign in here. If you don't have a username and you don't have a login for Twitter, this is the same page you use to find one. Just a little bit down from where it says sign in, over on the middle right-hand side of this image, it says new to Twitter, join today. And that's where you type in your full name, email, password, and click on sign up. Pause the video. Find these places on your own screen at www.twitter.com and do this. Then you can unpause the video and follow along as we continue. Once you've logged into Twitter, take a look at what someone else's Twitter page looks like. Yours won't have much information on it because you're brand new. So come take a look at AAMFT's Twitter page. You can do that by searching for the AAMFT with no spaces, or you can simply type in www.twitter.com/theAAMFT. Even if you don't have a username and a login for Twitter, you can see AAMFT's Twitter page along with a lot of other people's. But if you are already logged in, you'll be able to better follow along in this video. When you look at this page, you'll see a lot of colors, a lot of text, and a lot of information. So let's break it down. The dark bar at the very, very top of the image and at the top of your own Twitter screen as you follow along is pretty much always going to be there and look similar. It has the word Twitter on the far left with a little picture of a bird. We'll use that a lot in this video. Then it has the search box where you can search for different words to see who's saying that word, or different usernames to see if you can find that person. You can also click to get back to the home page, your profile, see messages, look at suggestions on who to follow. The little box with a pencil in it creates a link for you to make your own tweet. We'll talk about what that is in a minute. And you can also see who you are in the very top right-hand corner. In this instance, I'm logged in as the AAMFT, looking at the web page for the AAMFT. So it has our name up in the top right corner. See where it says the AAMFT in big words right below the word Twitter with a little bird? That's the page that you're looking at. It's ours. And below it you can see a bit of information like where we're located and the description that we typed in. The official Twitter feed for the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. Learn more and find contact information at www.aamft.org. That's our profile. Below that, you'll see the word edit your profile, and down a little farther, you see a few words and then all of our different tweets. Like, Ricky Siegel gets real about the importance of assessing and treating sexual concerns in couples, along with a link and the word sex therapy. Or below that, watch our free interview with Dr. Michael Howard and learn how to do better work with military families, along with another link. Over to the right, in the blue area, you can see how many tweets we've sent. In this picture, 286. How many people we're following, how many people are following us, and how many lists we've been placed on. Below that, you see thumbnails of different pictures that we post on our Twitter feed. And below that are some suggestions that Twitter thinks we'll like, or people we may want to follow according to Twitter. Maybe we want to follow them, maybe we don't. And then below that, it says Following View All. If you want to, as you follow along, you can click on the word View All to see the different people that we're following. Here's another example. This one's from Alberta AAMFT. You can see over on the top left-hand side the little Twitter bird and the word Twitter. Just below that is their description of themselves. Stay updated on research, events, and workshops in your area and updates from the Alberta Board for the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapists and their website. To the right of that, you can see how many tweets they have, the number of people they're following, and their followers. You can also see how many lists they're on. In the bottom left corner of this image, you can see some of their tweets. Here they have a reminder to vote on a particular amendment. So now you see what a couple of profiles look like. So let's take a look at how to make your own profile. Here is a close-up shot of what our profile looks like at the AAMFT. When you go over to your own page, by clicking the Twitter with a little bird next to it in the top left-hand corner of that dark bar, you'll see a line that says Edit Your Profile, just like you can see on this picture of our profile. That's where you want to click. That'll take you to a page like this. There's several tabs at the top, but the Profile tab will be chosen. You can upload a picture to become your little icon, the little miniature image in the top left corner. Write down your real name, or whatever you want people to think your real name is. Your location, as specific as you want to be, but don't be more specific than you should. After all, you don't necessarily want strangers to show up at your door. Your website, if you have one, and your bio. It's limited to 160 characters, so keep it concise. Once you've made your profile and scroll down a little bit to save it, it's time to take a look at what tweets are and try to figure out what you want to make your first tweet to be. Here's the picture from our Twitter page again. As you can see, down in the bottom left-hand corner of this particular image, there are some examples of tweets. Let's get a little bit closer. Here are the most recent tweets we've made as of the creation of this video. You can see several different types. The ones at the top are the newest. In fact, you can see that the most recent tweet was made just over half an hour ago about Ricky Siegel. And then 20 hours ago, we tweeted about Dr. Michael Howard. On December 6th, we talked about childhood bullying. All of the tweets in this example, except for the very bottom one, have a link. Some of them have a pound sign, that crosshatch, right before the word AAMFT 2012. Look at the very bottom tweet on this picture to find it. If somebody clicks on that, because it's in red and it has that pound sign in front, they can look at everybody who's saying things about AAMFT 2012. That's called our hashtag, and we use it to talk about the annual conference, so everyone can see who's talking about it. Don't worry about it too much now, just want to let you know what that is. If you're wondering what kind of tweets to make and how a therapist might create a really good tweet for them, check out Twitter for Therapists Part 1 to learn more about those things. For now, let's practice making our own tweet. Click the Twitter with the little bird up in the top left corner of your own screen as you follow along, and it'll take you to a page like this. Now you can type in your Twitter message and make your first tweet. Now, not very many people are going to see it unless you've already collected some followers, but we haven't gone over that yet. So go ahead and send out something fun, nothing that you'd want to regret putting out on the internet, but you don't have to take it too seriously right now either. Try using this example, and then we'll see your message when you send it. I'll tell you how. You can type in, I'm learning how to use Twitter. Thanks, @the AAMFT. When you put the @ in front of someone's username, it sends them a little message to let them know that you said something that you want them to see. In this case, because you have @the AAMFT, it sends us a message that you want us to see that you're learning how to use Twitter from this video. Right below the box where you enter the text, there's a number. Here it says 87. That means that this has used 87 characters. You're limited to 140 characters, so this will be a really good lesson in how to be concise. When you have what you want, and the number doesn't show a negative sign, then you're good to go. Go ahead and press the tweet button. And congratulations, you sent your first tweet. Now that you've had practice sending a tweet, why not follow some people so that you can see the tweets that they're sending out? Maybe some of them will even follow you back. There's several different ways to find people to follow on Twitter. One of them, that isn't shown in this picture, is simply to go to their website and see if they have a link to Twitter. If that's the case, it'll take you to their Twitter page, and below their profile, you'll see a green button that says follow. Click it, and you'll be following them. That means that every time they send a tweet, it'll go to your main page on Twitter, and you'll get to see them when you want. They'll disappear from the screen when they get replaced by other tweets and your screen gets full. So check as often as you like, but don't feel pressured to read every tweet that everyone makes. As we covered in Twitter for Therapists Part 1, Twitter is very much about what people are saying right now, not what they said a little while ago or what they might say in the future. So anyway, back to finding people to follow. You can also use Twitter to find them. In the top left corner, you'll see a red circle around the search box. You can search for a word or a name and see who shows up. Maybe you'll want to follow some of those people. At the top right, you see a red circle around following, followers, and listed. Find somebody that you want to follow and follow them. Then take a look at who's following them and who they're following, as well as who has listed them. You may be interested in some of them. Now, we don't have a lot of control over who follows us. In fact, we have pretty much no control over that. So it may be that those people are of interest to you, or it may be that they have nothing to do with the page that you're looking at. On the other hand, the people that folks are following may or may not have something to do with what they're interested in. So that might be a better guide, but it depends on who you're looking at. Same goes for listed. You can make lists of people that you like following on Twitter by theme. For instance, people that have to do with marriage and family therapy. You might take a look at some of the lists people have made that they've added this person to and see if you're interested in any of the other people on those lists. Finally, Twitter makes suggestions to you. In the bottom right, you'll see a circle around similar to you, view all. You can click View All, or just look at the top 3 that they offer and see who Twitter thinks you'll like based on the words that you've used while you're using Twitter. Some of those people may be a good match for you, and some of them may not. Once you start following people and people start following you, and you continue to tweet so that you're a part of the Twitter conversation and you're an active user, people might start sending you private messages, or messages that are written publicly but are directed for you to see with that little @ sign we talked about. Click on the Twitter with the little blue bird in the top left-hand corner, and then click on the tab that has your username. In our case, it's the @AAMFT tab that you see circled. That'll show you when people are mentioning you in their tweets, which means a public message that they added your name into to make sure you see it and to also tell people about you specifically. When people have followed you and who they are, and when people are retweeting messages that you've sent. Retweeting means they liked your tweet so much that they want to send the exact same thing out to other people, and it generally still includes your name so that you get credit for it. Let's practice making an individual message. There's 2 ways to do this. One is a message with that @ sign, what we discussed earlier, that lets that person know that you've written something that you want them to see, or mentions them by name so that other people know who you're talking about. That's the top left image on this slide. @OAMFT_Ontario, how are things up north? In this case, OAMFT Ontario will know that we're talking to them and that we're asking them a question. This will show up on their tab of private and individual messages. What if we only want OAMFT_Ontario to see what we're writing and we don't want anyone else to see it? Then we put the letter D, like for direct message, in front of @OAMFT_Ontario. Here's my suggestion to you. Never write anything to someone privately that would be upsetting for the whole world to see. Why? Because it's easy to forget to add in that little letter D. There's been a few celebrity and political scandals where people have made that mistake, and if you make sure that you don't type anything you wouldn't want the rest of the world to see on accident, then you'll be okay and not have to worry if you forget the letter or type the wrong one. Now you know a little bit about Twitter. Other people can read what you're posting publicly because we haven't gone through any of the settings on privacy, but you can explore your profile and settings page to look at those things. Have fun reading what other people have to tweet, seeing if you want to follow them, and catching the tweets you feel like reading when you feel like logging in. Make sure to stay an active part of the conversation so that people continue following you, but just as importantly, make sure that you're being a responsible therapist at the same time that you're joining the Twitter conversation. As you continue getting more savvy with Twitter, it'll be time to make a plan for how you want to use your Twitter account as a therapist, for practice development, for advocacy, for networking, or whatever other purposes that you want to use it for. Come back to Twitter for Therapists Part 3 to learn more about those things and how to use Twitter well. Thank you for joining us for Twitter for Therapists Part 2 of our 3-part series. This has been brought to you by the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. You can find us online at www.aamft.org, or you can look us up on Twitter at @the AAMFT.